Welcome to the village of Windermere on the shores of Lake Rosso. Prior to early explorers and settlers, the land of this area was known to be the hunting grounds of the Ojibwe people from the area now known as Orillia. It is presently acknowledged as the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, or Chippewa, and home to the Watah Mohawk people. This territory is covered by the Williams Treaty of 1923. Life was not easy for early settlers. Roads were minimal and very basic. The land was rocky and wild. Land grants were available for these intrepid settlers. 100 to 200 acres of land were free with the agreement to clear at least 2 acres, erect a dwelling at least 16 by 20 feet, and live on the property not less than 6 months, and for at least 5 years. All pine trees were reserved by the Crown, except those cut in clearing the land for the dwelling, or to use as fuel. During the 1860s and 1870s, it was difficult to make a living, but the families who settled in the area eventually recognized the advantages offered by tourism. The original settlers in the area were Frank and Elizabeth Forge, David and Ellen Fife, and Thomas and Elizabeth Aitken. They arrived to take advantage of the free land grants. A sawmill was located on the Dee River, just outside the village. The actual village of Windermere came into being on January 1st, 1868, when a post office of that name was established at Archibald Taylor's sawmill at the mouth of the Dee River. These first families to arrive in Windermere were hard-working entrepreneurial families who adapted to the challenges presented by the harsh conditions with innovation and drive. They cleared the land, built their homes, and slowly established a small supportive community that worked together for the success of the whole. Perhaps, as word got out that this small community was a reliable source for support and supplies, there came a good number of well-educated and prosperous cottagers who settled into the community, and for reasons one may never know, they stayed. And remarkably, many are still here. They became part of the community in more ways. They helped build the churches, the Mechanics' Institute, and the golf club from land purchased from the settlers. The Heritage Walking Tour will take you through the history and times of Windermere over the years. On many levels, Windermere seems frozen in time, with all its charm and small village quaintness. How did it remain virtually unchanged over so many years, while so much change was happening all round Muskoka? What relevant series of historical events and circumstances contributed to the serendipitous preservation of the village? There were many. Some purposeful, some coincidental. But collectively, these events added up to a community very aware of its unique character and its relevance to the heritage of Muskoka. And while Windermere had simple roads, which allowed basic travel for farmers and travelers, water access became an important mode of transportation to navigate the many islands and more remote areas, especially as more visitors came to the area for summer activities. But Windermere was not a thoroughfare. You needed a reason to come. You didn't just pass through on your way somewhere. By the 1890s, Windermere was a tourist destination, with 5 or 6 hotels that could accommodate 465 guests by 1909. Hotels around that time included Windermere House, Fife House, Maple Leaf House, Kings Park Hotel, which was 2 miles north of Windermere, Ross River, and the Newtonia Inn. Pakwana Lodge came a little later. Windermere was incorporated as a village in 1924 and boasted of being the smallest village in Ontario. It had a reeve, also known as a mayor, the first being Henry Longhurst, as well as councillors. It also had a local switchboard for the Watt municipal telephone system until it was bought out by Bell. Additionally, Windermere had its own hydro commission from 1930 until 1985 and purchased power from Utterson. The village collected its own taxes, had its own school board, maintained its own roads and garbage. In winter, a combined team of horses plowed the roads. The village hall was originally intended as a council hall and was equipped with a fireproof vault to hold village records. Currently, it is the summer home of the Muskoka Arts and Crafts Council and the bookstore during the Muskoka Chautauqua Festival. We also have a newly completed children's playground. Church services in early Windermere consisted of sermons conducted by traveling ministers that would preach and board at the Fife House. In 1884, David Fife donated land for the construction of a Methodist church, which was completed in 1887. As the congregation grew, the need for a larger church became necessary, and a new church being completed in 1894, the old church became the Sunday school. With the merger of the Methodist and Presbyterian congregations into the United Church of Canada in 1925, the new building had become overcrowded and deteriorated by the late 1940s. The wood-frame church was torn down, and a new stone church was built in 1951. In the mid-century modern style with Gothic references, it was built with donations of money, labor, and materials from village residents and cottagers. The manse across the street was built in 1899 for the clergy of what was then the Methodist Church of Windermere. It is now staff housing for Windermere House. The first store in Windermere was constructed in 1896 by Perry Prosser. It operated as a general store and also a residence into the late 20th century. In 1912, William Aitken purchased the property and moved his telegraph and post office to the store. Also on the property are a large ice house, one of the last cold storage buildings in Muskoka, the foundations of what was the Windermere Dairy, and small stone building for storing flammables. It has been rehabilitated for use as office space and residence and is heritage designated. It was the first general store in Windermere and the first location to sell gasoline after the popularization of the automobile. Adjacent to the property is the Benjamin Taylor Cottage, constructed between 1911 and 1914 and occupied by early settlers. This building, originally a meat market and general store, opened in 1962 and then expanded to include a post office in 1978. In 1980, a fire broke out in the upper story, and the wood building was totally destroyed. Concerned about another fire, Murray Taylor reconstructed a larger 2.5-story commercial building in concrete. It operated as a general store and post office until 2023 and has recently been converted to a fitness and Pilates studio, La Grille, by the lake. David Fife immigrated to Canada from Scotland alongside his brother-in-law, Thomas Aitken, the founder of Windermere House. After settling in the area around 1862, the family initially lived in a rugged log cabin. Following the boom of early Muskoka tourism, David Fife opened Fife House, starting a boarding operation as early as 1887. The formal hotel structure was completed in 1889. Notably, founder David Fife belonged to the same Scottish lineage as the agricultural pioneer famous for developing red Fife wheat. In 1960, Mary Elizabeth Aitken, the granddaughter of the Windermere House founder, purchased Fife House, bringing both iconic properties under a unified Aitken family ownership. Sadly, the historic, multi-story wooden Fife House resort was demolished in 1970. Thomas Aitken built the wharf in the 1870s, and along with the promise of a regular supply of cordwood to fuel the ships, he convinced the steamboats to make Windermere one of their unloading locations. By 1890, a freight shed had been added with a boat shed to follow in 1895. Both were altered over the years to accommodate the needs of the community and its visitors. By the 1930s, an open shelter had been added, and the freight shed became the pavilion that it is today. The dock platforms were originally wood, but were replaced with stone by 1919. Around the turn of the century, W.J. Johnston Sr. established a boat rental shop by the wharf. He had similar boathouses at other resorts. Later, Nathaniel Bogart set up a marina that was home to the Windermere Roof Gardens, a lunchroom. It later became the Skipper. This was purchased by Art Cuff and then Basil and Christine Veitch. Mary Elizabeth Aitken purchased the marina in 1965 and asked Norm and Harriet Strip to run it. The Strips purchased it in 1967. It is now owned and operated by Muskoka Marinas and has a small supply and convenience store. Windermere House was founded in 1870 when Thomas Aitken, one of Windermere's founding settlers, began renting rooms in his house to visiting fishermen. He also constructed the town wharf in 1871. He persuaded steamers to make Windermere a main stop on their route by the offer of a free supply of firewood. In 1872, he added on guest accommodations, and, with the help of his wife, Mary Trail, he began offering meals and better services. Over time, the original house was renovated, including a sizable addition in 1883, which included the resort's first tower. The structure continued to expand, including the construction of outbuildings such as a garage, water tower, and staff quarters. The resort became known for its luxurious accommodations and served many affluent guests. The hotel remained in the Aitken family for over 100 years until 1987. Sitting on a hill with its iconic towers and large lawn in front make it an important landmark when approached from the water, reflecting its development as a hotel accessed by rail and steamship. The original plan reflected arrival by steamship, with the front desk just inside the main entrance at the top of the stone steps. The towers played an important role in cooling the building. An entrance was added at the back of the building for vehicular traffic once the automobile became the dominant mode of transport to Muskoka. Windermere House, also known as the Lady of the Lake, is one of Muskoka's last grand hotels and one of the oldest landmarks on Lake Rosso. In February 1996, tragedy struck during the filming of a Hollywood movie, The Long Kiss Goodnight. During the shooting of a night scene, a room on the second floor burst into flames. Windermere firemen tried desperately to control it, but there was a light freezing rain that turned the roads into a sheet of ice. It took hours before other fire departments could get there. Fortunately, there was no wind and it burned straight to the ground. By morning, only the stonework and fireplaces remained. A petition asking owners to restore the historical building was distributed, and response came from all over North America. That summer, boaters were lost on the lake without the hotel for navigation. In 1997, 15 months after the fire, Windermere House reopened, looking the same, only fresher. The Roper Cottage is one of Thomas Aitken's early homes built when his original house was incorporated into the hotel. It later became the home of Gertrude Aitken and her husband, Charles Roper. It is now a rental cottage that is part of the Windermere House and is known as Windermere Cottage. Billy Bishop, a friend of Charlie Roper, started the first commercial passenger flight from Toronto to the Muskoka region in the summer of 1920. It was operated by Bishop Barker Aeroplanes Limited and founded by World War I flying aces Billy Bishop and William Barker. Float planes were used to transport patrons from the Toronto Harbour to cottage country. The inaugural flight, often cited as Canada's very first commercial passenger flight. At one time, there was also a Presbyterian church on Fife Avenue, across the road from the Anglican church. This church was built in 1895 and torn down in 1940 after the United and Methodist churches amalgamated. The property for the church was donated by John Patton, who also helped start the Mechanics' Institute, a gathering place for the sharing of literature, music, and the arts. The Mechanics' Institute movement began in Scotland during the early 1820s and eventually evolved into the foundation of Canada's modern public library system. These community-based institutes aim to provide technical adult education, evening lectures, and lending libraries to working-class men, or mechanics, during the Industrial Revolution. The Windermere Mechanics' Institute opened in 1885. Before the construction of Christ Church, Reverend Charles Mockridge conducted services on his front porch at what is now known as Mockridge Hall. This was in 1894. In the early 1900s, Mockridge purchased the land and, with the help of his sons, built the church. The building was completed in 1904. It features wood-decorated interior with pyrography designs, an original working organ, and stained glass windows. The church is seasonal, with Sunday services conducted in the church in the summer, and in winter, the services are held in Mockridge Hall. This helps reduce the stress of temperature changes on the church structure. In the 1960s, the church was in need of repairs, so the Osler, Mockridge, and Skinner families helped to restore it. The Baldwins, formerly known as the Maple Leaf House and then the Maple Leaf Lodge, was built in 1901 by Irenaeus Huff on land purchased from David Fife in 1897. The hotel, over the years, included a baseball diamond and a private wharf on Maple Leaf Bay. In 1905, the lodge burned to the ground but was reconstructed in 1906, larger than the original structure, and with various other buildings being added over the years. Huff's son, Ivan, remodeled the building in 1924, adding a tennis court and an annex known as the Snuggery. Ivan purchased the hotel from Irenaeus in 1939, changing the name from the Maple Leaf House to the Maple Leaf Lodge, and built the stone wall. In May of 1946, Fred, also known as Baldy, and his wife, Mildred Baldwin, bought the lodge for $15,000. They changed the name to the Baldwins and renovated by adding several cottages and a snack bar. In 1980, it was sold to Al and Pat Putanen. The grounds included a much expanded original structure as well as numerous outbuildings and cabins. It is now a privately owned property, and most of the old buildings have been demolished. Ponds and property are being restored. Muskoka Chautauqua is an artistic community that nurtures curiosity and creativity. The Chautauqua movement has a long history in Muskoka. At the turn of the 20th century, Muskoka was known as Canada's literary summer capital. In the years 1916 and 1917, conferences were held at Windermere House and Elgin House to provide study, sport, and spiritual uplift. Chautauqua was part of a larger American movement established to bring education, religion, and the arts to communities, most often in beautiful outdoor settings. After World War I, Tobin Island on Lake Roseau was the location of the first permanent Canadian Chautauqua institution. There were a number of Chautauquas across Canada, beginning in the early 20th century. Muskoka Chautauqua was started by Charles Sinclair Applegath in Windermere in 1916. In 1921, he purchased the Wascata Hotel on Tobin Island, renamed it the Epworth Inn, and thus began the Muskoka Assembly of the Canadian Chautauqua. Years later, the Epworth Inn was purchased, reinvented, and renamed Wigwasson Lodge. Leslie and Maud Aitken built the bungalow in 1921 when their daughter, Mary Elizabeth, was born. Mary Elizabeth owned the house until her death in 1987. Her friend and former employee at the Windermere House, Beth McCarthy, had looked after Mary Elizabeth when she became ill, and as a thank you, the house was left to Beth in her will. After being rented for a number of years, Gary and Susan Kinsella purchased the house under the agreement that she would restore the gardens and the house. Around the same time, the smaller house to the east of the main house was constructed. Mary Elizabeth proved to be one of the most visionary and enduring custodians of Windermere House. She had a commanding presence and was rarely without her two standard poodles. She recognized the amenities that the modern tourist wanted and implemented an ambitious expansion, good chefs, a liquor license, and curated art shows. It was a premier destination. The Windermere Golf Club was founded in 1919 with the course's official opening on August 4, 1920. A total of 124 acres was assembled, the land purchased from local landowners Huggard, Crowder, Aitken, and Bunn. The original clubhouse was a portable structure purchased the same year. A permanent structure replaced the portable clubhouse in 1954. The golf course was originally built with 9 holes and slowly expanded over the next decade to become the 18-hole course that it is today. It was designed by Stanley Thompson, lead golf architect at his family's Toronto architectural firm, Thompson, Cumming and Thompson. Stanley was a co-founder of the American Society of Golf Course Architects. Verona Newton, daughter of the founder of the Newtonia Inn, was Canada's first female golf professional who began her career at this golf club. John Shannon built a grist mill in D-Bank in 1868. Vital to settlers, D-Bank grew, and soon there was also a school, sawmill, store, post office, an inn, church, cheese factory, tannery, and blacksmith. Within a generation, the community had faded, and today it is gone completely. The children of Windermere originally attended the D-Bank School. This was located on land that was purchased in 1873 for $10. It was a log construction that over time deteriorated. So in 1897, the Presbyterian Church, that had been built in 1878, was bricked and converted into a replacement schoolhouse servicing Windermere, Ufford, and Ullswater. Some of the teachers boarded in Windermere and walked to D-Bank. They had to make their own fires to warm up the building in the winter. As D-Bank declined and Windermere grew, the residents of Windermere wanted a schoolhouse of their own. In 1912, it was agreed that a school could be constructed in Windermere. And at one point, there were 50 students of all grades 1 through 8, with only one teacher. The school eventually closed in 1966, and the building became repurposed as the Windermere Community Center. It is used for many community gatherings and activities, including the annual Terry Fox Run, and is also home to the only remaining women's institute in the township of Muskoka. At one point, there were 55. The Windermere Women's Institute also manages the Windermere Historical Archives, which are housed in the basement of the building. The Lions Club uses the community center for their meetings. When you look about town, you will see many rows of beautiful trees. They have all been planted since the land was first cleared by the first settlers. A row of trees was planted in 1919 along the Golf Course Road. In the Town Council notes of 1946, 2,000 red and Scotch pine trees were ordered to be planted the village to act as a windbreaks. The stone walls, too, are an important and distinctive landscape feature. Privately owned, yet gracing the roads, Windermere enjoys a large and varied stone wall collection, possibly the highest concentration in Muskoka. Their varied character is unified by the local granite. Some are more than 100 years old. Many need repairs. Their preservation is important to the village character and reflective of the heritage. Windermere, a village with a fascinating past, a vibrant presence, and potential for an amazing future. We are a community.